Let's talk about the other big European fixture, Aston Villa versus Liverpool, live on TalkSport on Friday night. Who is going to finish fourth and who is going to finish fifth? Woohoo! But actually, it is really important because if Aston Villa finish fifth and win the Europa League, then six, as we've been talking about, gets a place in the Champions League. If they were finishing in the top four, that doesn't happen. So look, I think most of the league is willing on Liverpool to win this fixture, especially all the other teams that could finish in sixth. I'm not sure the Aston Villa fans feel that way, but I think that certainly everybody else is, because we want six teams in the Champions League next season. Look, I suppose with Aston Villa, the other issue that you've got with them is that they've got to make sure they're in rhythm going into this final. But this final is coming around a lot quicker than the others. This one takes place next Wednesday night. Does that benefit them in their league position? Because I suppose in a way they've got to keep themselves honest and on the bridle.
Yeah, but they haven't really done that, have they? I think it's 8 points from their last 9 league games. And again, this sort of emphasises what I was saying about the strength of the top end of the league. They started the season appallingly. They're not ending it particularly well, but they're still going to finish in the top 5, Aston Villa. I'm really intrigued to see what team he sends out, because obviously they've got the European final sandwiched in between these two final games of the season. I think for Liverpool, you were there, Sam, the reaction to Arne Slot and particularly taking off young Engamoa tells you how fractured his relationship with the supporters is at this moment in time. The hierarchy are holding firm, hence the fact that they're not making a play for Xabi Alonso, which is what all the fans want them to do. But it's important, I think, for Slot that he finishes this season well, and certainly that he goes into next season on a high and starts that one well as well. And then you've got this fascinating situation that we've not really spoken about too much. Liverpool against Brentford, last day of the season. Brentford, if they're in 6th place by then, might be in a position where they want to lose the game so that Liverpool finish 4th, Aston Villa finish 5th, and therefore 6th becomes a Champions League place, which is almost unheard of. The only time I can really think of a group of fans wanting to lose on the final day of the season.
Oh, I remember it.
Was Liverpool against Blackburn. And obviously Liverpool won, and Andy Cole blew the title for Manchester United, but we don't talk about that because he gets the ump.
But hold on, the last time it happened actually was at the Hawthorns, West Bromwich Albion against Portsmouth.
Oh, we remember that one as well, yeah.
If West Brom beat Portsmouth, then Southampton would be relegated. So the Portsmouth fans spent the whole game cheering on West Brom. And when they scored, they cheered their goal as well. And when they did beat them, they all invaded the pitch. The whole ground invaded the pitch, met in the middle and celebrated together.
Yeah.
That was the end of a Premier League season, I think 2004 or 2005.
2005.
Brilliant. Fantastic end to the season.
Quick question. Sorry, just a quick question to Crookie. You said earlier in the pod, with a little bit of a smile as well, that Xabi Alonso want the Liverpool job? Why would he not want the Liverpool job?
I think he likes the idea of managing in London and living in London.
Okay.
I think the difference is that obviously he used to live in Liverpool. He was there for a long time. I think that he's got a desire to sort of experience something new, and the idea of being in London sort of definitely appeals to him, but he's only going to take that job if it's on the right terms. I think the Liverpool job will always be there for him. I think it will be difficult if he takes the Chelsea job to go to Liverpool. But listen, I think really with Xabi Alonso, I don't think he's going to be a manager for the rest of his life. I think the other thing about Xabi is that he's quite happy to do it and be a part of it, but I'm not necessarily sure that it's going to be a vocation until he's 70. Do you know what I mean? I think he sees it as sort of something he's going to do for the next 15 years, and that's it. You know, hang up his boots very early. Let's talk a little bit about Arne Slot, though, because obviously you mentioned there that the fans want Alonso. How do you repair the damage that seems to have been done to the relationship between Slot and the fans, Scott? Really? I know that Arne Slot thinks he can turn it around, but do you think that's possible next season?
Yeah, I think it's possible. How do you turn it around? You win football matches. So how do you win football matches? Well, you get the recruitment right. It's all about the players and obviously the manager as well, but it's about the players. And they've got it horribly wrong for whatever reason this year. And I do think that Arne Slot can turn around and say, well, look, judge me over the 2 years, i.e. throw in the Premier League title. If it had been reversed these 2 years, then people would have understood. We've talked about the reasons why, both on and off the pitch, that perhaps it hasn't worked. The question for the hierarchy is, and I've said this before, they've got to look at him in the whites of his eyes and say, what's the problem? Do you know how to sort it? How much is it going to cost? And if he looks like, and he, to be fair, his last interview that I listened to anyway, it looks like he knows what he wants to do. I personally think he deserves a summer and another year. But I've not seen Liverpool fans ever quite get like this on their manager ever before.
Roy Hodgson?
Yeah, actually, yeah, it's a fair point. It's a fair point. Roy Hodgson's an excellent manager, never quite a fit at Liverpool.
No, and that was an odd situation as well, because I remember actually he was working quite intensively on the court case. I was in the High Court every day with Liverpool and their owners and Martin Broughton and that group that eventually got them sold to FSG. So that was a very odd period of time, actually. So I think that probably you have to sort of take that in isolation. But you're right, if this is not something that happens at Liverpool very often. And like Crook's already mentioned the Ngamoa situation and how that exploded on Saturday lunchtime. But the truth is that Slot thought that Ngamoa was injured. In fact, Ngamoa had told him he was injured and needed to come off. But that can't be communicated at that point. It's not like you can do the VAR thing and say open mic and say, I'm taking off number 73 because he's got serious cramp. So don't boo the decision, please, lads. But anyway, I think he's got a lot of work to do. Unai Emery has been touted as a possible replacement for Xabi Alonso at Real Madrid. Obviously, we now know that that's not going to happen. He's been touted as a possible replacement for Ruben Amorim in the long term at Manchester United. We don't think that's going to happen either, because Michael Carrick is on the verge now of signing a 3-year contract as the manager of Manchester United. So what happens next with Unai Emery? Is he going to, as we advocated for him to do, build a dynasty at Aston Villa going forward, Alex Crook?
Yeah, I think now those two jobs are off the table. I've not heard of any other interest. So you would imagine that he will stay, particularly having guided Villa back into the Champions League, maybe, probably to their first trophy in 3 decades. They're heavy favourites to win that Europa League final. And then it's going to be really interesting to see what happens in the summer. Do they then have the ability to keep hold of Morgan Rogers, who's got a lot of suitors elsewhere? Do they have the ability to give Unai Emery the funds to really go and build a team that can challenge at the top end of the table? Because we've spoken about it already. Chelsea have fallen off a cliff. I think Tottenham, if they stay up, will be much better under Roberto De Zerbi next season. You would imagine Manchester United are going to invest heavily this summer and kick on again. Liverpool should be better with a full pre-season behind them and more reinforcements. So with the current squad, without making significant signings, I think it'd be difficult for Aston Villa to replicate next season what they've achieved this.
Just on Aston Villa, I think that they're right to be major favourites. In fact, I'm going to rank the European finals in terms of probability of an English win. Number 1, Europa League, Aston Villa against Freiburg. Having done Freiburg a couple of times this season, good team, some good players. I like Manzambi. He's a very good player and a young player, and I think he'll end up playing for a big club in Europe somewhere further down the line. But they don't look to me like they have got goals at the top level. They'll score goals, and they've scored quite a lot of goals in the German league, but I'm not sure they'll score too often against Aston Villa, and I think Aston Villa have got the firepower to overcome them. Crystal Palace, number 2, and their game against Rayo Vallecano. High press, they'll put you under the pump, Vallecano. You've got to find a way out. If you get out the other side, there's going to be spaces and maybe there's opportunities to play, but you've got to be ruthless in front of goal when you take on a team like that. And that is one thing that Crystal Palace haven't been over the course of the season. But I still think they're second most likely to win a European trophy. And then, of course, the toughest one is the Arsenal one. They take on the champions of France. Congratulations to PSG, by the way. They've won their title, so they can put their feet up for a couple of weeks and prepare for the Champions League final. Would you agree with that, Scott?
Yeah, 100%. 3-2-1, total agreement. Just looking at Villa's fixtures as well, don't forget, it's not as if they've got one more game left. That's Manchester City away, who might be needing to win that game, to win the title. We don't know. So this is really the last game where I think they'll have a chance of picking up any points, but I don't see how. So I basically am saying they will finish 5th, and I agree with you that they will win the Europa League as well. So I'm sure the rest of the teams just below would be hoping for the same thing.